from the University of Aberdeen. I've been working with Bob Donald of One Seed Forward for several years now on the educational side of school gardens. And we set up this idea of garden schools, and I'm going to come to that shortly. I should say that I'm not going to speak for a whole hour. I'm going to speak for approximately, and we'll have time for a question and answer and sharing session after that, I think. I'm delighted that we've been able to kind of join up with David and Natalia from Aberdeen for a Fairer World and the Montgomery Development Education Centre to host events. And as mentioned by Natalia, each month we will focus on something you can be doing in relation to your school garden. This month the topic is on soil and composting. I'm not going to talk for the full 30 minutes about soil and composting, but first I want to mention the briefing paper, which I'll put up on the screen here, which we've just produced. And I think if Natalia has the link, has the emails, then we can send this out. I was going to put it in as an attachment to the chat, but I don't think I can do that. But we've got this School Gardens briefing paper, which we produced in the university along with colleagues from Edinburgh University, and it really is a review of literature supporting the development and support of school gardens, with evidence taken from the literature showing the impacts, positive impacts on learning, health and well-being, and environmental understanding and behaviours. So I'm not going to say much more about that, but you'll be able to read it when we send it out, and you can use it for arguing for development of the gardens in your school or institution or organisation, wherever it is and whatever you want to do. While we don't have a guest speaker this month, apart from me, we will normally have a guest speaker in future webinars, and I'm going to say who those are for next. Sorry, that's my phone just gone off. I should switch that off. Always forget to turn things off. And people are knocking on my door as well. If you just excuse me just for a second, I'm going to put myself on. Sorry, they've gone. I think that was my son appearing home from school. So, right. So we, as I said, I'll introduce the next month's speakers at the end of the presentation. But before I go on, I'd really like to find out a little bit about who you are. And sorry, I'm going all over the place here. The Mentimeter to find out a little bit about what the audience, the distribution of the audience is. And I've got it here. I'm just looking for the link to put you into the Mentimeter. Sorry, this is, I'll have it ready. Right. So this first one just really is a little bit about your position, where the audience is. I'm going to put this link in to the chat box, and you'll come to this website, which just asks. Again, don't worry if you don't fit neatly into any of these categories. You don't even have to do this if you don't want to, but if it's useful for us to know, who are we talking to? Are you a preschool, primary, secondary, head teacher, pupil support, community education, third sector organisation, policy person, whatever, that would be under other. If you can complete that and just submit, then we'll get a breakdown, and I can have a look at that in a minute just to see who's who. And the other one we want to do is at what stage are you at with your school garden? and I'm going to put that link into the chat box as well, just so we get some idea of, and that should, I just click on that, you'll see that it comes up with, you know, what's your interest. You don't have a garden, but you're interested. We just set one on, you know, but we haven't grown anything yet, and so on. You might have a lot of experience and so on. And then there is one other link I'm going to give you now, which you don't have to complete just immediately, but I'll give it to you so that you can, let me just get it up on screen. Here we are. Here we are. So it's this one here, and this really is just what you want to get from the webinars. So I'm going to put that link into the chat box. You don't have to complete that just now. You can do it at your own leisure whenever is convenient. It's just so we get an idea of what you'd like to get from these webinars, because what I'm going to do today might not be what you wanted. So if you can just complete those things, and we'll come back to them at the end, I think, just to see what the audience is like and who's who and what your expectations are. Okay, so let's continue with the present. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this back up on screen. I'm clicking the wrong, that's it. Right. So what I want to do is to talk before I get started, a bit more of the project on soil and compost, I want to say a little bit about the school gardens project that we were involved in. So Natalia mentioned that Bob, Donald and I have been working for a few years on a project, and this kind of an initiative that we had a pilot project a few years ago, which was actually part of Aberdeen's, and Bob might remind me, Aberdeen's Sustainable Food Cities or something. Bob got some funding, so we set up school gardens in 3 regeneration areas in Aberdeen. And as a result of that, we developed various guides, which I'll come to in a minute. But I just want to show you a short video which was made by our student Aristia Kyriakou. So there was myself and Bob and Laura Colucci, great wife and colleague, academic colleague, and then 2 PhD students who worked with us on this. And this is just a 5-minute video. I think the sound should be on, but if it's not, then let me know. Sorry, this is on YouTube anyway, so if you want to follow up later on. Maybe now it's a bit slow with zooming online. Oh, sorry. Don't click on anything when
Well done. That's really good. Yeah. So,
We already harvested it once. We got two.
Okay. So that was just I don't know what the sound and the video quality was like. These are the kind of technical aspects that we're unclear about in the first run through. But you can, I think you've got, Natalia's got an evaluation form. You can mention these things at the end, I think, and so we can adjust and so on. So that was essentially the brief overview of the pilot project, and then from that we actually developed a guide which is available on the Garden Schools website, which again, I'll put the link into the chat box so you can look at it later on. And in that website, sorry, we keep. I need to put this back on to and I will go back to the actual website here, and you'll see that we've got a program. We developed a program with lots of modules, which are all freely accessible, which loads of resources, loads of ideas, and I'm not going to spend a lot of time going through that, because you can browse and get that information that you want from there yourself. So we have the One Seed Forward University Teacher's Guide, which, as I say, has got these modules in it. And from there, we then went on to develop well, we also have a garden calendar, and you'll see that in the calendar, which has suggestions for activities during the year, we have in January soil and composting. So we'll focus on that in a minute. I'm just wanting to outline the other resources that we have available for you to look at offline when we're there. From all that, we developed a course, a standalone course, which you have access to within any time. And again, I'll put the link here from there. This is on the university website, and you can access that and have a look at it. And you'll see that it's essentially built on the same structure as the school guide, that we developed. And again, it's got lots of activities and lots of things to look at there. Next slide. Sorry, I'm just working on the wrong thing. I need to go back in here. So these are the modules, as I say, and you can click on them and get the access to things. So now we want to move on to, well, why are we dealing with soil and compost in January? And if you go into the Royal Botanic Gardens of Edinburgh Edible Gardening Project, they say in their guide, if the ground is not frozen, it is possible to prepare soil for spring planting. Well-rotted compost or manure can be dug into the soil or applied as mulch on the surface. So again, there's the link, and you just go in and you'll see that they've got a suggestion, just a short blog, but it's clear that we can do things in the school in relation to soil and composting with children. Association, what's in the soil. There's a very short video here, and again, it may be that quality is not good. This lasts 1 minute, so I'm going to give it a chance and see what they say, and I'll put the link in so you can follow it yourself.
There are more organisms in a teaspoon of salt than there are people on the planet. So, you know, there's more little microbacteria and nematodes and things in that than there are people on the planet. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? So there's this whole complex world going on under our feet. There's these 6 billion organisms every teaspoon, but there's networks of fungi. They're like the road systems or the waterways. There's colonies. You know, we worry about the loss of bird species or you know, little frogs or something, but actually a quarter of our species that we know exist in the soil, and of those we've only identified 10%. We know so little about what's going on. We really need to protect it. Soil does have potential to store a lot of carbon stored in UK soils. And there's 2 ways we can increase that. We can get the existing soil to store a bit more, and then beyond that, we can create more soil. So we're very lucky in the UK. We have warm, wet climate, and that's really conducive to building soil. So breaking down that subsoil and actually building the depth of soil as well as organic matter. Looking after our soils is looking after our planet.
So there we have a short thing there from the Soil Association about the importance of the soil. And I think that's one of the things we need to focus on when working with children and try and encourage an understanding of the importance of soil. It is actually a very thin layer of skin around the earth, and we are damaging it quite extensively through various forms of bad practice. So it's trying to get an understanding of the fact that it's not an inert substance, but it's a living material which we depend on, and also has a very important role to play in things like the carbon capture that we require in this times of climate change. So the soil, there are loads of activities, and I don't want to spend time elaborating lots of activities here. I'm just going to point you to two sources that you can have a look at. One is the Secrets of the Soil that we have on the course in the university. And again, for working with children, there's a little video there at the beginning. We've got the what is soil, what it means, how to look at it, its uses of soil, soil types, and then how to determine things. So that we've essentially three types. So there's the clay soil, sandy soils, and the soils in the middle, but there's actually a whole lot more varieties of that. But you can do lots of little experiments with children looking at the water retention properties and what is a healthy soil. So these are quite useful things to cover. There's also this quite nice resource which can be found on the OWL's website, which I'll put in the sorry. You can find it there. I have it here already. And it's actually quite a nice little resource. And it divides it up into different levels of activity: early and first level, second level activities, third and fourth level activities. I'm conscious that we might have people from outside Scotland on the webinar, and these refer to the Curriculum for Excellence levels in Scotland, but I'm sure it wouldn't take much to kind of fit it to curricula from elsewhere. And it's got some nice, interesting information. 1/4 of the world's biodiversity is found in the soil, and that supports most of the food chains on our planet. Soils filter our water and purify our air. And again, this thing, healthy soils store more carbon than all the forests in the world. That helps us to combat climate change. So you can build in so many different curricular areas into looking at soil, as well as using the soil to grow veg and think about the food that we rely on. It gives you information about the structure of the soil, which again, I'm not going to spend a lot of time dealing with here, and some of the troubles that we have with soil. And what we can do to help. So that's a document to help guide what you do in the classroom. And I'm going to leave that there because I'm conscious of time moving on, and think about what does it mean to be a healthy soil. And this is a little quiz. So we have these interactive quizzes on the university website, and this is just to give you a sample of what it's like, and a little bit of respite from listening to me talking. You can have a try of this one. It's asking. Let me get back into the thing. I went into the chat box so you can get there. And again, I'll go back to that, and you'll see that it's just asking a question. About, so you can answers are the correct answers, or choose all that apply, and just take a minute to think about that, and we'll have a look at what people get at the end. I'll give you a minute to do that. How are people doing with that? Just okay, well, that's a very, very brief look at soil and some of the resources you can use for soil, but where does composting come in keeping the soil healthy? Well, Isis Brooke, in this book, Gardening Philosophy for Everyone, says major player here because it improves the structure of the soil, it improves water retention, it increases the number of microorganisms that break down vegetative matter into plant nutrients, and it supplies the raw material of those chemicals and trace elements that the plant needs. So composting is a very important thing that is required to keep the soil healthy. And as before, there are many resources on the web that can be used to support children's learning and the importance of composting. And again, I'm a bit wary of the sound quality in the video. So what I'm going to do is I'll let you look at this in your own time. But this is Bob. Sorry, I'm just going to...
Welcome to Module H in our Garden Schools educational programme, Crazy Compost. In this module, we shall discuss the process of composting, learn what materials can be used to make it, and how you can involve pupils in collecting these and building a bin for use at school. So let us start with the basics. What is compost? Compost is decomposed or rotting organic material. The process of breaking down this material is done by living organisms such as bacteria, fungi, worms, insects, and so on. In order for them to be able to do this, they need food, air, and water, just like us. The food is the material that you put into the compost bin, and we will examine this closer in a minute. For good composting to take place, there needs to be plenty of air. A good mixture of materials will provide lots of air pockets, but composting materials on a regular basis with a fork or a spade is effective too. Heat is important, as a hotter environment will break everything down faster. Water is also a key component, but as with everything in the garden, it is important that this is the right amount. If your compost looks too wet, you can add more food materials in the form of browns, and if it is too dry, then you can add greens or water from a can. When making compost, a 50-50 mix of browns and greens should be used. But what are these? Let's explore this further. Greens are nitrogen-rich materials that activate the composting process, but can decay and become smelly on their own. Examples of this are grass cuttings, raw vegetables, fruit peelings, coffee grounds, leaves, soft green plants, and green weeds such as nettles. Be careful when putting weeds into your compost. Ones with tap roots or those in seed should not be put in, as they will contaminate the compost, potentially to other parts of your garden when the compost is used. We would also recommend that the stalks and leaves of potato plants are not included in your compost in case any blight spores are present in these. Browns are carbon-rich materials and balance the greens but decay slowly on their own. Examples of these are cardboard from egg boxes, toilet roll inserts, kitchen roll, scrunched up or shredded paper, wood ash, hedge trimmings, and eggshells, amongst others. It is a good idea to put a layer of brown woody material like twigs at the bottom of the pile to help air circulate. Next, you can discuss composting and recycling with pupils. Some things like cans, bottles, and plastic that can be put into a recycling bin can't be put into our school compost. But less obvious things such as meat, fish, and cooked food shouldn't either, as they may attract unwanted guests like vermin. Playing games with picture cards and having pupils decide if they are browns, greens, recyclable but not compostable, or general waste help children children to understand the composting that will take place in school and prevent any unwanted items going into the bin or heap once composting starts. Purple top caddies in each classroom for the collection of leftover pieces of snack items, such as fruit, would be a way of getting more greens into your school compost and encourage the whole school to take an interest. The location of a compost bin or heap on school grounds should consider the amount of light it will have and ease of access to it for the pupils. There are many different types of bin, and these can be researched online. The use of recycled wood from pallets to make one is a great way to continue the discussions about recycling and putting this into action. It also gives an opportunity for involvement by the wider community, providing assistance in the construction of the bin if your pupils aren't able to do it themselves. It can take between 1 and 2 years for compost to be ready to use. When it is dark and crumbly and has an earthy smell, then it is time for this nutritious material to be put to good use all around the garden. It can be spread as a mulch around the bottom of existing plants, dug into the soil where you're planning to plant, or combined with soil to use as a potting mix for you to grow seeds in. Compost helps provide some of the nutrients that plants need to grow and form part of the nutrient cycle. It should be added to your garden bit by bit as it becomes ready to use. Compost helps to make healthy soil. Healthy soil means healthy plants, and healthy plants means healthy people. Nutritious compost and healthy soil are vital to the successful germination of seeds and growth of plants, and we shall look at seeds and germination in our next garden school module.
Okay. So that was Bob giving the lost the thing. Where's it gone? Here it is. No, I need to get back to the slides I was on. So that was Bob with a short video, and on the website, the course website on University Garden Schools training resource, we've got a short video like that for each of the modules which are available. But as before, there are many resources out in the web that can be used to support children's learning and the importance of composting in the garden. This is just one, and we've got other things that are pointed to in the guide and on the website. But you can also find a useful guide about how to compost on the road, and again, I can provide the link in the chat for that, which just explains a little bit about it. I'll pop that back onto the web and to the chat box, so you can access that too. I'm conscious there's a lot of links going in the chat box here. I hope there are not too many. And we'll get back to this. But essentially, I mean, that's about all that I'm going to say about soil and composting. I'm conscious that I've perhaps run over my time just a little bit. Little technical glitches here and there, but that's all I'm going to say, and the rest of the time is really going to be a question and answer session. But before that, I'd just like to introduce the speakers for the next session, which are Juliet Gardner and Carol Taylor from Bankery Academy. I mean, I'll be saying a little bit about the topic, but we'll pass on to Juliet and Carol, who will focus on nature deficit disorder, attention restoration theory, and social and therapeutic horticulture, various aspects that they've been working with in Bankery Academy. And they might want to say a little bit in